All right, guys, this story right here really is a damn shame. It really is. It just goes to show those people, particularly on the left, who claim to be so pro-black. That really means they're pro-Democrat. Okay, because apparently, if you don't have the views that they agree and they accept, right, which is basically pro-Democrat views, then apparently you're not black enough to join the Congressional Black Caucus, which is basically a group of Congress members, black Congress members, no whites allowed. Even if you're white and a majority of your district and your constituents are black people. I'm gonna talk about how ridiculous that is later in this video. Congress members who come together to basically, discuss issues for black America, right? And to promote policies that are good for black America. Okay, that's what's supposed to be for. Okay, and Byron Donalds, who is a black Republican from Florida, apparently has been given the cold shoulder by the Black Caucus. And word on the street is that the reason why they're not letting him in is because he supported Trump. So I got kind of a bit to say about this. So let's first listen to Mr. Byron Donalds, who is a rising star in my opinion, have a discussion with CNN in regards to why the Black Caucus is blackballing him. Take a look.
CBC didn't comment directly on the situation, but said this: the Congressional Black Caucus remains committed to fighting for issues that support black communities, including the police accountability bill, protecting voting rights, and a jobs bill that helps our communities. We will work with those who share our values and priorities for the constituents that we serve. We are joined now by Republican Congressman Byron Donalds of Florida. Sir, thanks for being with us.
Pleasure to be with you.
All right, so you heard that statement from the CBC, and what's implicit but pretty clear here is that in that statement, they're basically saying they don't think you share their values and priorities for the constituents they serve. And I wonder what your reaction is to that.
My reaction is pretty simple. First, I heard about this report yesterday when BuzzFeed, I think, is the one that broke the article. We've not really heard much from the CBC since they asked me when I came in as a new member in the 117th of whether I would join or not. It's important for your viewers to understand that when I served in Florida's legislature, I was a part of the Legislative Black Caucus for 4 years. I've actually been to a couple of the CBC conferences in Washington, D.C. I'm a poor kid from Brooklyn, New York. I'm 42 years old. I've been able to be successful in my life. So whether it's talking about jobs or, yes, even voting rights or anything that the CBC wants to talk about, I have a perspective being a 42-year-old black man who's come up in America after a lot of the battles through the civil rights movement that I think is actually will be helpful and a helpful perspective to the CBC. Whether they want to take advantage of that is really up to them. But it's something that I've actually expressed interest in joining. I think having a wider range of discussions from all sides of the political framework is important, not just for Black America, but all America.
You have questioned the election, the veracity of the election. The 2020 election was verifiably secure, but this questioning of the election, which many Republicans have done, is the basis, really, for all of the bills that we have seen across so many states that, if passed, will effectively reduce voting access of Black Americans. Do you think that that is something that might be incongruent with the mission of the CBC?
Well, first of all, what's going on or with whatever going on with the 2020 election, that has nothing to do with this at all. Number two, I would say if you actually look at the bills that have been passed in Florida, Georgia, actually Black Americans and all Americans, whether you live in those states, have more access to the ballot, not less. Those are the facts because I've read both bills. And number three, again, I'll say it like I said before. I'm 42 years old. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I come from a single parent household. I know what it is to actually have to grow up coming out of the inner city in today's America because I've done it. I think those perspectives are helpful. Whether the CBC wants to take advantage of that is up to them. But I'm here to tell you and your viewers, and frankly, the entire country, that I'm willing to be a part of that conversation because it is important as we navigate our country forward that we have people who have all kind of political perspectives, not just one.
You say that actually this will increase access for voters of color, for African Americans. That's just not true. There have been analyses, multiple done, including by the Houston Chronicle, looking at the bill specifically in Texas, including by the Washington Post, looking at these bills writ large, they're not going to increase access for voters of color. They're going to decrease access. Furthermore, you have defended President Trump you've said he's done enough when it comes to rebuffing ideas about white supremacy. But I do want to listen to some of his prominent comments on the subject of race to get your perspective.
Blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. Who would you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and Proud
Boys, stand back and stand by. When people proudly had their Confederate flags, they're not talking about racism. They love their flag. It represents the South. What do you prefer? Blacks for Trump or African Americans for Trump? George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Look at my African American over here. Look at him. Are you the greatest? Do you know what I'm talking about? Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a bitch off the field right now?
Do you think that your defense of a person that said things like that might be incongruent with the mission of the CBC?
First of all, whatever the president said in the past has nothing to do with this discussion at all. I think
you've defended
please
him.
don't cut me off. I have not cut you off in this interview. Please do not do that to me. Thank you. As a black man in America, I'm allowed to have my own thoughts on who I choose to support and who I choose not to support. I think that it's important, whether you're talking about the Congressional Black Caucus or the Florida State Legislative Black Caucus or the National Caucus of State Black Legislators, organizations I have been a part of in the past. My support of President Trump has been consistent, but at the same time, I've had the ability to advocate for issues, ideas, proposals, and funding that have helped the Black community in my state. You're talking to somebody who my first 3 years in college was at Florida A&M and HBCU. So whether my support for President Trump, whether it's for or against, is irrelevant. That has nothing to do with this discussion. This is whether the ideology of somebody who is conservative is welcome in the Congressional Black Caucus. It's really that simple. And so to bring up President Trump and try to make this about him does not matter. It's irrelevant. It has nothing to do with the situation at hand.
Well, I ask you because
whether the CBC would let me join.
All right, guys. So that's Donalds there talking about that. Like I told you guys before, I think Byron Donalds, he is one of my favorite new freshman House members, and not because he's black, but the reason why is because he's clearly very smart. I believe he worked in the financial services industry before getting into Congress. He understands politics. He knows, all the right things to say. He spoke out on the right things. Okay. And also he's shown a willingness to actually be bipartisan to a certain extent. Like, he's even worked on certain bills with Rashida Tlaib and other Democrats in Congress to try to attempt to be bipartisan, while at the same time being on the right side of Republican issues, right? So I like him a lot, and I think he's going to be a rising star in Congress, in my opinion. But even with that being said, guys, me pointing out that the man is willing to be bipartisan. He's willing to work together with Democrats. He's not there just as a mouthpiece that's just talking and marketing, but not really trying to do anything. Even despite all that, he's still not getting entry into the Black Caucus just because he supports Trump. Again, to me, it really blows my mind how the people in this country that always want to talk about racism, always want to have this conversation about how the white man is keeping black folks down and the white man this, the white man that. Every time I look, there's always another black person keeping another black person down just because they don't like their ideas or the things they have to say. I mean, it reminds me of the King Randall situation where the black superintendent is keeping him, a black person, from starting his own school just because they don't want to compete, just because he doesn't agree with him. And it's probably a political thing. I mean, this is most certainly a political thing with Byron Donalds, but this is what I hate to see, right? Because as much as these people want to complain about white supremacy this, white supremacy that, it seems to me every time I look, it ain't white folks holding back black folks. It's other black people holding back black people. Why is it that this man can't join the Black Caucus if it's for black people, and I'm gonna discuss just having a caucus for black people in a little bit, but if it's for advocating for black issues in this country, why is it that black conservatives can't get a seat at the table? Do you think that black conservatives don't have solutions or good ideas that can help black America? Is that what it is? Because if so, let's debate it. Let's have a debate about it, because I would love to debate all the Democrat policies that have kept black America down, right? If that's what the debate is about. But see, it's not even a policy-oriented thing. It's about, oh, you just don't agree with us. Oh, you support Trump.
Oh, we don't like the fact that you support Donald Trump. Trump bad, orange man bad. That means that you ain't black if you support Trump.
That's literally what it is. Like Byron said in the interview, what does supporting Trump have to do with me being a black American trying to fight for black issues? What does that have to do with anything? Right? Like, because some of the things Trump did were good, right? That's just a fact, right? Now, whether or not you agree with all of it, that's a debate to be had. But Trump did do some good things for black America, okay? He definitely didn't ruin black America for sure. He didn't do anything super negative towards black America. That means that the values of the Congressional Black Caucus, what it really means is that, oh, you just can't support Trump. What they're basically saying is that supporting Trump is anti-black. If you support Trump, then you're anti-black. By definition. That's what they're saying. I mean, how ridiculous does that sound? And these people are so out of touch. While Trump has had more black support than most Republicans in a long time, since the Civil Rights era. But yet you're sitting here trying to say that supporting Trump is anti-black when he is making headway with black Americans? Again, these people are not very smart. And if they actually really cared about black America the way they claim to, right? If they really were trying to change people's minds and advocate for certain policies, they would let Byron Donalds in. And they would say, okay, we're going to let as many Republicans in as we can. We can get them in here so we can all get on board with policies that we think are good for black America. And then they can go back and then they can pitch those policies to the Republicans to get them on board with it. That's what you would do if you actually gave a damn about actually getting shit done. That's what you would do. But that's not what they're doing. Because they're not pro-black. They're pro-Democrat. That's it. And it's funny because Byron Donalds, again, I mean, you know, it seems like from his background, he is, in my opinion, more black in terms of being a black American than Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar is straight up from Somalia. She's an immigrant, okay? She's an immigrant. She's African. Byron Donalds was born in America. Why is it that she gets entry, but he can't? Because it's not like white people can really join, okay? And it's funny because, again, they claim to want to help black Americans, but yet back in 2008, there was a freshman representative, Stephen I. Cohen, a Democrat from Tennessee, a white liberal, who wanted to join the caucus because more than half of his constituents were black. And he was like, yo, I want to be a part of this caucus because my constituents, my people, the people that voted for me, a majority of them are black. So therefore, I want to help them. So that's why I want to be a part of this caucus. They was like, nah, bruh. You ain't got the right skin color for this. Like, bro, you can't make this up. How backwards is this? The dude's constituents are black people. Why does his skin color even matter? Why does it matter? He's clearly cares about his people enough to want to join the group. But no, he can't because of his skin color. So again, I'm trying to figure out what are the qualifications. If the caucus is for black people, for black House members, why does it matter what side of the political aisle you're on? Does he not have anything to contribute to the issues that's going on in black America just because he supported Trump or just because he's conservative? And see, this is why the whole diversity thing is a joke. Everybody cares about diversity of skin color, but nobody cares about diversity of ideas. And the most important part is the diversity of ideas. That's the most important part. The goal should not be to have different faces that all think the same. You get nothing out of that. The goal should be to have people that think differently regardless of their skin color. That should be the actual goal. And see, this is the problem with the left, in my opinion. There's no room to think differently. There's no room for disagreement. Guys, this has also happened to Hispanics. Another former Republican Florida representative, Carlos Cabola, he was denied entry in 2017 from the Congressional Hispanic Caucus because his political positions were not consistent with their values. So again, the Hispanic Caucus got the same mentality to a certain extent. And that's how you know that these caucuses, these groups, they're just Democrat propaganda. That's all they are. No diversity of ideas. You just want everybody to think the same and they all look alike. And because of that, nothing's ever going to come out of these things. They're a waste of time. So at that point, I do understand why people like Tim Scott and some former other black Republicans are just like, it's just a waste of time. But furthermore, I mean, the idea of having caucuses just for certain races of people, I mean, come on, man. But you know what? I really don't even have that big of an issue with it. My biggest issue with it is that if there was a white caucus, I guarantee you there will be issues with it, right? My issue with the black caucus is not that they have a black caucus per se. It's because they can have a black caucus, but they can't have a white caucus. That's my real issue. Because when Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz tried to start the America First caucus, right? When they was talking about Anglo-Saxon traditions, the liberal media tried to spin it as, oh, this is the white caucus, right? And they got upset. So we know for a fact if there was a white caucus, they would never be able to get away with it. Never be able to get away with it. The most annoying part about this is that it just continues to perpetuate the stereotype that, you know, if you don't vote Democrat, then you ain't black. Okay? That your political affiliation is a qualification for whether or not you're considered to be a part of a certain race. Again, it's the same thing that Biden said when he told Charlemagne the God that if you don't vote for me, you ain't black, right? It's the same exact thing. And they're perpetuating the stereotype. You got black Congress members perpetuating the stereotype that if you don't agree with the white liberal, then you ain't black. But yet these people call themselves pro-black. And it's like, no, you're not. You're actually pro-white liberal. That's what you are. Pro-white liberal. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.